If you enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and if you would like to support the channel on Patreon or PayPal, the links are listed below. The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew have had a massive cultural impact for almost 100 years, and have been brought to us in novels, movies, TV, and even video games. It all started with the Hardy Boys novels, which were created in 1927 by writer Edward Stratemeyer. The novels were mostly geared for young teenage readers. The books were mystery books about two brothers, Frank and Joe Hardy, who were amateur detectives who went on adventures solving various cases. The Hardy Boys books were so successful that in 1930 Stratemeyer created the female counterpart of the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew. The book series was titled Nancy Drew Mystery Stories, which was another big hit for Stratemeyer. The Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew books were written by a number of ghostwriters, but they were mostly written by Edward Stratemeyer's daughter, Harriet Stratemeyer, who went under the pseudonym of Leslie McFarlane, Carolyn Keene, and Franklin W. Dixon. In April of 1938, Warner Brothers started production of the first Nancy Drew film, Nancy Drew Detective, which was retitled Nancy Drew Gets the Passport. The film was directed by legendary director John Farrow, with a screenplay by Robertson White. But for no reason at all, Farrow and White were replaced, which delayed the production. The first film was followed by Nancy Drew Reporter in 1939. The first two films did well enough at the box office to allow Warner Brothers to do a third and fourth film, Nancy Drew Troubleshooter and Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase. In the late 50s, the Hardy Boys' first 38 books were revised extensively, with the racial stereotypes of the original books removed. Many more books of the Hardy Boys were published until the 2000s, with the Nancy Drew books published until 2003, with a total of 175 books. The success and appeal of these books was obvious, and the books have gone through a number of changes over the years, going from simple mystery novels to action-packed stories of espionage, and are still enjoyed today by young readers. In the late 1950s, Walt Disney, with the permission of the Stratemeyer Syndicate, two Hardy Boys TV serials were produced. These serials starred Tim Considine and Tommy Kirk. Both serials, The Mystery of the Applegate Treasure and The Mystery of the Ghost Farm, would air on the Mickey Mouse Club in 1956 and 1957 for 19 episodes at 15 minutes each, with a production cost of just $5,700. Actors Considine was 15 and Kirk was 14 at the time of the filming. The Hardy Boys were actually a little older in the book. The Syndicate would approve an hour-long pilot for a new Hardy Boys television series, and a new pilot based on the original story. The Mystery of the Chinese Junk was aired on NBC on September the 8th of 1967. The pilot starred Tim Matheson and Rick Gates, who were both 20 at the time of production, much older than the Hardy Boys in the books. The pilot rated very badly, and the series was dropped. In 1969, a Saturday morning cartoon series was produced by Filmation and ran until 1971. The premise was much different than in the books, with the Hardy Boys as members of a rock band. They even produced 2 albums, which featured catchy 60s bubblegum-style tunes. The series was notable for being the first cartoon series to include a black character. The show would even warn a young audience against drug use, with the animated Frank and Joe Hardy speaking directly to children about not smoking and the importance of wearing seatbelts. The Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew franchises were both at this time owned by Harriet Stratemeyer. In 1976, producers Joyce Brotman and Arlene Sedaris were interested in doing a fully fledged Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew series and proposed the idea to Universal Television, who were straight away interested. First, they needed the approval from the Stratemeyer Syndicate. When asked by Brotman and Sedaris to do a series, Harriet was at first skeptical, but would give them permission under one condition: that they keep the wholesome, conservative values of the book series intact, and that she would have full script approval. Producers Brotman and Sedaris would agree to this, and the series was pitched to the ABC network in September of 1976. Sedaris and Brotman wanted to incorporate both the characters, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, in one series, while keeping the purity and old-fashioned American values of the books intact, leaving out any sex or violence. For Brotman and Sedaris, this was the series they were looking for, and it would promote their television careers. ABC would approve the idea and set the launch date of the series for January of 1977. Glenn A. Larson, who at this time was the most in-demand producer and creator in television, was given the project. About taking on the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew series, Larson explained, "I happened to have 9 kids, so I wasn't foreign to the idea of something that appealed to a young American." In casting the series, they cast Sean Cassidy, the younger half-brother of pop singer David Cassidy. Sean was just 18 at the time and was the first person to audition and got the part immediately. Producer Sedaris was surprised how, unlike most children of famous parents, Sean had his head screwed on right. Sean was originally cast to play Frank Hardy alongside singer heartthrob Leif Garrett, but after Leif was dropped, the producers decided that Sean was better in the role of Joe Hardy. Parker Stevenson was cast as older brother Frank Hardy. Stevenson, at the time, had already worked on a number of movies and commercials, but wanted to study at NYU instead of acting. Larson cast Stevenson mainly because he was so impressed after seeing him in the 1976 film Lifeguard.
I was studying architecture, and I was sure that's what I was going to do. And then somewhere along the line, I did a couple of pieces of work. I did one little movie called Lifeguard. It was getting commercials. I got lucky when I got the Hardy Boys.
The producers saw Sean and Parker's winning combination and chemistry.
He was the first person set, and I was the last person read. I think that is what worked. Us fooling around. That's what we did the back lot. We jump on the trams for the studio tour in the middle of a shot.
Both actors were a little older than the main teenage characters in the book. Cassidy was still in his late teens, and Stevenson was in his mid-20s. Cassidy and Stevenson had actually just met, just hours earlier before shooting the presentation, and as Parker recalls, he really got to know Sean in those 24 hours. The series was titled The Hardy Boys Nancy Drew Mysteries, and Larson produced a one-day presentation pilot for the network, which took him literally 24 straight hours to shoot. After seeing the presentation pilot by Larson, ABC gave the go-ahead for the series. Casting Nancy Drew proved to be a bit harder, because everybody had this fixed image of her in their heads, so the auditions would last a long time. Producer Brotman explained that whoever came in was not tall enough, too blonde, or too red. At one stage, even Jamie Lee Curtis auditioned for the role. She would later guest star in the episode The Mystery of the Fallen Angels. But as soon as actress Pamela Sue Martin came in, everyone saw her as the perfect Nancy Drew. Pamela was already a working actor for a number of years. Her most well-known role was in the disaster epic, The Poseidon Adventure. Edith Atwater made her first appearance in episode 1 of season 1, The Mystery of the Haunted House, playing the Hardy Boys' nosy aunt, Gertrude Hardy. The series was filmed at the Universal Studio lot on parts of Colonial Street, where countless movies and TV shows were filmed, including the 1989 film The Burbs, The Munsters, the original Leave It to Beaver series, and Gremlins. The Hardy Boys' house would also serve as the house for the main character, Susan Mayer, in the ABC drama Desperate Housewives. The Nancy Drew house was also situated on Colonial Street. The famous Psycho house was used in episode 1 of season 1, The Mystery of the Haunted House, and in episode 15, The House on Possessed Hill, in season 2. From the start, ABC wanted the Hardy Boys' Nancy Drew mysteries for their 7 p.m. Sunday time slot, which was also known as Family Hour. The first episode, The Mystery of the Haunted House, would debut on January the 30th of 1977, soon after the presentation pilot was produced. The series would never achieve top 10 success like other shows, but did very well in the ratings and had a decent audience. The books were difficult to adapt into 1-hour episodes, so Larson and his writing team came up with all new ideas with original storylines instead. Larson was known for cranking out scripts very quickly. Interesting to note that the Hardy Boys writing team was comprised of prolific screenwriters like Stephen DeSouza, who was the scriptwriter of Die Hard. One thing that definitely stands out in the series is the exciting opening music for the series, which is the most exciting opening TV show title music of the 70s. The theme was composed by Stu Phillips, a longtime collaborator of Glenn A. Larson's, who would go on to create music for Larson TV shows such as Battlestar Galactica and Knight Rider. The series was a lot different from the books, with a number of changes made with the storylines and characters, like Kaylee Shaw, who was turned into Frank's girlfriend in the series. For Nancy Drew, the character Ned Nickerson from the book was turned into Nancy's boyfriend, a football quarterback who attended college. The first season would have one weekly episode, with Nancy Drew having her own episode. During the second season, she would appear together with the Hardy Boys on a number of episodes. During the first season, the Hardy Boys were the leads in 6 episodes, while Nancy was the lead in just 3 episodes. 4 episodes would cross over with all 3 characters together, but the Hardy Boys were given far more screen time. In the early crossover episodes, Nancy and Frank usually clash with each other, with Nancy and Frank even kissing in one episode, but this was as far as the romance went. For the first season, the opening credits would feature a maze under the series title. At the end of the theme music, a voiceover narrator would announce who was going to feature in the episode and the episode title.
Tonight, the Hardy Boys in the Disappearing Floor.
Martin, Stevenson, and Cassidy were credited in all of the episodes. For the Season 2 title sequence, the maze was replaced with clips from the series and a collage of book covers from the book series. For Season 3, the theme music had an upbeat disco sound to it and featured clips from various Season 3 episodes. With the popularity of the series, it attracted many well-known guest stars, including famous musicians, including Ricky Nelson, Lorne Greene, Maureen McCormick, Ray Milland, Jamie Lee Curtis, and musician Paul Williams in the episode The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew Meets Dracula, where he performs the song The Hell of It, featured in the cult classic musical Phantom of the Paradise in 1974. Other musicians to feature in the series were Rick Springfield and Bernie Taupin, the composer and musical partner of Elton John, who would also appear in the 2-parter The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew Meet Dracula. With the success of the series, Parker Stevenson and Sean Cassidy became well recognised everywhere, and their popularity was almost reminiscent of Beatlemania, especially Sean, who also had a pop music career, becoming one of the #1 teen idols in the world. There was also a lot of merchandising for the series, which included action figures, with the Joe Hardy figure complete with a guitar accessory, which included a secret panel to decode messages. Other merchandise to be released were puzzle books, a board game, an annual, and various novelizations. The series was innocent fun, mostly relating to a children's audience, and basically revolved around Frank and Joe Hardy. Their adventures would often take the boys to other cities and different countries. Frank was usually the older, more mature and sensible brother, while Joe was often impulsive and dreamt of becoming a pop singer. Nancy Drew would first appear a few episodes into season 1. Nancy Drew was an amateur sleuth, but prefers to be called a part-time investigator. She is the daughter of defense attorney Carson Drew. The two live in the fictional town of River Heights, New Jersey. Nancy solves many mysteries with her best friend, George Fane, and her father's paralegal, Ned Nickerson, whom she shares a romantic connection with. With the second season, there were some serious story and character changes. For the Hardy Boys episodes, all supporting characters were dropped from the show, all except for Fenton Hardy. For the Nancy Drew episodes, the reoccurring character, Ned Nickerson, played by George O'Hanlon Jr., was erased, but would later come back in one episode as a district attorney from Boston. The actor originally in the role was played by a different actor, and Ned was reintroduced to Nancy Drew as if they had never met each other. During the second season, the Nancy Drew character storylines were greatly reduced, mainly due to the Hardy Boys having a slightly bigger fan base. So midway through the season, Pamela Sue Martin left the series after becoming disappointed with the juvenile aspects of the role. Pam was replaced by actress Janet Louise Johnson as the new Nancy. Nancy Drew had no solo episodes for the rest of the season. With season 3, the character Nancy Drew was completely dropped, and the series was retitled The Hardy Boys. Season 3 was much darker in tone, with Joe and Frank Hardy becoming government agents. Their boss is Harry Hammond, played by Jack Kelly, who became a regular cast member for all of the 10 episodes of season 3. Producer Brotman remarked about season 3 and its dark tone. We felt we had to expand our horizons and our audience. Season 3 continued with many high-caliber episodes, including the episode Assault on the Tower. Larson would leave the series partway through season 3 to work on Battlestar Galactica. Sadly, season 3, after Larson's departure, would be cancelled after only 10 episodes. The last episode was the episode titled Life on the Line, which aired on January the 14th of 1979. As a kid growing up in the late 70s, I was not a big fan of the books. I don't recollect what the exact year was, but I knew about the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew Mysteries TV series long after it aired in the 70s. I only really found out about the series when I looked at the TV guide and knew straight away it was the show for me. The episode that really stood out to me was the episode titled The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew Meets Dracula. Since then, I have watched the whole series, and it was a lot of fun to revisit the series on DVD. After the series, there have been many incarnations of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew on TV, film, and even video games. The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew is a property that has been around for almost 100 years. The franchise has certainly stood the test of time, but it was the TV series, The Hardy Boys Nancy Drew Mysteries, that made an impact on me as a kid. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching.